Sup, guys? Ryu here for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. You know what time it is. It's time for Tech Tuesday. And this one I'm really freaking excited for. This is Mystical Refpanel. Now, before we get started, I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons. I don't want you to believe that I'm hyping this up like a hype machine. That's not my intention. I know this card in the past has got attention, but there are some fun fucking things you can do with this card right now, and I'd like to talk about it and do a breakdown. So let's read off the effect, and then we'll go into the reasons why I'm bringing it up and why I think you should give it another look if you're interested in getting it. So you activate only when a spell card that targets one player is activated. And then the effect of that spell card is applied to the other player instead. There's very important wording here. Activate only a spell card that targets one player. So a lot of draw power cards affect only one player. But a card like Card of Demise will not be able to be Mystical Refpaneled because it affects both players. Card of Demise lets your opponent draw 3, yes, but the fact of the matter is, and why it doesn't work with this card, is simple. If it has the text afterwards, like Card of Demise does, about your opponent not taking any damage, that will cause the interaction to not work, pretty much. Puts you that way. So a few things that this works against, mainly, let's go over some common stuff. Trade-in, Allure of Darkness, and Pot of Desires. I'm going to go with Pot of Desires last, but Allure of Darkness, it's simple. You'll get the draw 2, your opponent has to pay for the cost. If your opponent plays the trade-in, it's pretty much the same thing, you're going to reap the benefit. But one of my favorite things, honestly, is probably Into the Void, that if your opponent is playing Into the Void, that end phase effect where they have to discard their hand, that will still apply. So you're going to get the card, and they're going to get the end phase fuck you effect, pretty much. But as I said, my favorite use for this card is definitely Pot of Desires. Your opponent goes to play Pot of Desires. They banish out the top 10 cards of the deck. You chain this to that, and then you're going to draw the 2. You don't have to pay for the 10 costs, your opponent does. Meaning that they just went minus and risk banishing out 10 cards for nothing. While also giving you 2 cards. So you instantly go +1 to make your opponent minus real hard. And so for the simple fact that Pot of Desires is so played in every single deck, this card is fantastic for that reason. Now, the things that lack about this card are pretty simple. You can't use it against something like Raigeki or Dark Hole or something cool like that that's going to blow up the board, unfortunate enough. But you can still use it against your opponent's stuff that they want to mainly do, and the biggest one probably being Pot of Desires. And a good chunk of decks do run it right now, so if you want to do that against your opponent, here you go. Now, it also works against Allure of Darkness, so there's that as well if you want to draw 2 without having to pay for the cost. Your opponent's playing, I don't know, your opponent's playing Destiny Heroes, or plays Poly Duality. It works on all sorts of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not just the competitive base, not just the casual base. This is a good medium ground Tech Tuesday card. I love this thing because of how funny it is to steal your opponent's Pot of Desires. Now let's talk about the cons, because there are a few cons here. As I brought up, it can only be a spell card that targets one player, meaning a lot of draw power cards will be affected, but this is Twin Twist bait out of the ass, and unless you protect it, you're not always going to be able to stop your opponent. It works good in a stun deck, in my personal opinion, because a stun deck can support Starlight Road or Huge Revolutions over a lot better than your typical average deck. So this is something to think about. Hey, I want a free 2 draw cards to keep up with my opponent's speed. That's something to think about. But for every other deck, not quite good, but still super fun to play. Give it a go, see what you think about it, and let me know. Anyways, guys, I'm ending the video off here because it's super busy right now. It's super busy in my whole area right now. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in as always, and I'll see you on Thursday for stock markets. I don't have anything really planned for tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more.